What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the van. Today we're going to take a look under the vinyl floor and start working on flooring and insulation on our new camper build. So pretty stoked to have you along. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. But we took a look under the vinyl carpet whenever we were shopping for the van. Didn't pull it all the way up. Don't really know what to expect. The inside was pretty disgusting, but I have a feeling it's going to be pretty clean under there. So we're going to do that today. Start working on cutting pieces of insulation, maybe gluing some stuff down. We'll see what happens. Hopefully we can get this floor insulated and get moving on this build. Let's go. So as you can see, it is winter in Colorado. We are still a little snow on the ground, but it is chilly. It's a brisk about 32 degrees. So I'll be bundled up for this first part of this build for sure. You can tell from previous video, we've already put in some sound deadening. I don't know how effective it was. It definitely is quieter, but it's still an empty cargo van, so you can kind of see what we're starting with. And then down here is the vinyl floor. So you can see there's some holes to patch for sure from where the cabinets were. There were some big contractor cabinets in here that you'll recognize from the last build, or from the last video. And then there were some, there's a divider behind the front seats. So those supports had to come out. So there's definitely some holes to fill up, but let's rip this up and see what we have going on here. Alright, so that wasn't so bad. The prep work to get all of those bolts out was definitely worth it because that carpet came out way too easy. I'm going to use the carpet for the template for the foam that's going down and the flooring that's going into the bus, or into the van. Keep calling it a bus because the last thing we built really was a bus, but definitely not a bus. The floor, get in the shadows here, looks absolutely fantastic. Obviously the holes from where the cabinets were, the rest of it looks like OEM paint. It looks like it's had that rubber mat down for the entirety of its life. No real rust that I can see. Maybe some surface rust over here in the corner where some water is sat, which would be really easy to just wire brush and clean up and then repaint. Other than that, some brackets to remove. I am beyond happy about how that floor looks. Not as happy about how the footwell looks where the plastic was on the side. They had a pretty interesting setup here. They had a small like ATV winch. I don't know if you can see that in the harsh sun we got here, but there's a pretty good dent, which will obviously be covered up, but then various plumbing supplies from jobs in the past. Yeah, just some junk. So we'll clean all that out and get this completely cleaned up. And I'm not quite sure what that's going to look like whenever we get to the finished stages, if that will get like a wood covering or just go back to the plastic. I assume the plastic will be plenty. But yeah, pretty good dent right there from where they were, I assume, lifting pieces of plumbing equipment or fixtures into here with the winch. The winch was mounted right up here. You can kind of see where that was, those holes, and then the power for the winch comes up right here. So we've definitely got some holes in the floor to fill. It won't be a big deal. Probably use the sound deadening leftovers, the scraps, to patch those holes. We got really fancy whenever we did the bus before on how to patch those. It turns out just like any kind of object, any kind of layer in between you and between the floor and the elements, and then keeping water out from getting to your insulation is the key. So we'll do that again. Obviously I have a ton of cleaning to do. I'm gonna get in here, clean out all the metal and the screws, and then come back with probably a leaf blower and a broom to make sure we're not shooting anything out into the abyss here on the street. But not mad about that at all. Cleaning this part of the van was probably not necessarily needed in this stage of the build, but it was disgusting and it was nice to get all of this junk out of here. This little corner of the van was full of screws and bolts and markers and pins and all random things from a lifetime of being a plumbing van. Now that everything is basically brushed or blown out, it's time to bust out the grinder and get all of the paint and rust spots cleaned up. So after a ton of cleaning, really just scrubbing, like went in with the shop vac, hit it with the degreaser cleaner, came back through with like Windex, like multi-purpose cleaner, just to get everything as clean as I possibly can inside the van. Number one, because it's disgusting and it used to be a plumbing van, so trying to get as many of those terrible chemicals out as we can. And number two, all of the glues, all of the stuff, it all has to be clean to work. So one of the challenges we're running into is we are doing this project. It is January in Colorado, so everything's cold. It's 29 degrees right now, and it is 3 p.m. The warmest that I got today was 29. So I've got the little space heater running. It's not great, but it works. It is definitely not enough to warm up the metal in this van to make it to where it's going to stick really well. So we might be holding off on putting down panels and stuff. I think I'm going to try to measure some and get some ready to go so that when the weather cooperates, we can have a warm van and put down some glue. But until then, just waiting on paint to dry, essentially. So I'm going to put down the same material that we use to put up the sound deadening. Literally going to use that with some glue as my my patches for these holes. Just needs to be something that water's not going to get through. The glue's going to deal with the water tightness of all of it, but just something metal flashing to keep water out, and then come back and take a look and see what the weather looks like over the next week or so. With the heater keeping the inside of the van a nice warm, 73 degrees or so, I wanted to take this opportunity to kind of show you how we were covering these holes. We used pennies or sheets of thin sheet metal on the bus previously, and since we had this material around, it's essentially the same thing. It's a foil-backed sound deadening. We decided to use this instead. Used the Gorilla Glue construction adhesive, cut out a square, an inch bigger all the way around from the hole, put down the glue, and then press everything down. Just wanted to show you one step of this. Obviously, we did this 30 times or so to cover up all the holes. I was quite impressed with the Gorilla Glue construction adhesive. It works wonders for projects just like this. Winding down the amount of time we got today, so I've cut out a piece of foam board. I'm gonna throw it down with some adhesive, see how well it sticks with the temperatures. I'm gonna keep the space heater running in here. If you can see, got all the holes patched. That was the big thing for today, was to get all those openings covered. Just used the Gorilla Glue heavy duty construction adhesive and then put that down with the sound deadening foil. It looks like it's going to work okay. It's pretty warm in there. It's about 75 in the van. So yeah, we're going to give that a shot, and then I'm going to put down using Loctite PL3. Says it's for foam board. I couldn't find the PL. I think it's 300. I hope they're the same thing or at least similar. We'll see. We used liquid nails on the last one, and it seemed to work fine, but trying to be a little more specific on what I'm using. So I'll drop that in here. We'll put some weight on top of it and set it overnight and just see how it goes. The most important aspect of this, obviously we've talked about already, is the temperature of the metal that we're putting this on, and then the cleanliness. So making sure to go over this with a degreaser, make sure there's nothing left, no dust, anything like that. Allow it to set up for a few minutes, and then put your material down. One thing that we didn't have whenever we did our bus build was a template for the floor. The floor was not able to come out in one piece, so we weren't able to set up kind of a jig or a template to cut out insulation and different building materials, which was quite a challenge. On this one, we had the foam or the vinyl carpet that was able to be rolled out. We could roll it back up, store it in the garage, and then wheel it back out whenever we needed a piece of plywood cut or another piece of the flooring cut. So it was quite nice to be able to have that template. So if you're able to save the flooring from your vehicle, it's a good idea. Now to cut this foam board, literally just used a box blade, same one we used to cut the foil tape, same one we used for basically everything. Cuts pretty easy. Just mark down with a Sharpie and then follow the lines. All right, we've got the foam down. We've got every heavy object in the garage. Tires from the CRF 300, the dirt wheels and tires for the summer, power tools, all the stuff. So we're gonna set this in here. I'm gonna close this guy up so we don't let all the heat out. But yeah, that's where we're at. So we'll see how the foam works, and I'm sure this will all be one big episode, but we'll see how the foam sticks in the cold. And then we'll start working on, we've got plywood, we've got more foam. We have a tiny little garage now that is just full of nonsense. So we'll start cracking. I'm exhausted, I'm tired. Super excited about this project though. This is great. I hate installing floor in vehicles. Like, I know it's an extremely important part. It's one of my least favorite things to do. It's so tedious. The details are so important, and getting a clean surface and a warm surface and the right glue and the right insulation and blah blah blah. I'm ready to be done with this part. I like building the rest of it. But yeah, it's part of it. You got to do it. If you're working on your own project and that's how you found this video, keep going. It's totally worth it. Having insulation as minimal as it is in the floor is a good thing, something you will appreciate. Obviously the insulation everywhere else is more important than the floor, but the floor is the hardest to redo. So with that said, gonna let that stuff dry, gonna go get some sleep, some food, and we'll be back at it in a couple days. All right, later.